So let's start with the first part of the three-part breath, which is belly breathing. So obviously we're going to use the belly. Now that's easier said than done. So I'm going to stand up so you can see what I'm talking about, the belly. When we inhale, we are going to stick out the belly. So when we get air into the lungs, the belly becomes bigger. When we exhale, the belly comes back to normal position. So you can put your hand on your belly and make this movement already just to become familiar with it. So when you inhale, belly goes out. When you exhale, belly goes back to neutral position. And in and out. Now, it is not air that you're putting into your belly because we do not have our lungs in the belly. The lungs, they stop somewhere here where there's a diaphragm. So here we have our organs. So why is it when we inhale that the belly sticks out? Is because the diaphragm, which is the big muscle that separates the thorax from your abdominal region, is going down and is pushing your organs out. So that's why your belly becomes bigger when you inhale through belly breathing. It's not because air is coming in, it's because your organs are getting pushed outwards. But we will visualize, we will think about getting air into the belly. So when you think putting air into the belly, it is easier to understand why the belly will expand during the inhalation. All right, so this is called belly breathing, or also diaphragmatic breathing. And why is it also called diaphragmatic breathing? Because the diaphragm is here, and when we lower this diaphragm, we are making room for the lungs to become bigger. So when this diaphragm gets lower, the volume of the lungs becomes bigger. And as this volume becomes bigger, we are automatically inhaling air. So this is how you start an inhalation, by controlling this muscle, the diaphragm. You lower it. Therefore, the volume of the lungs becomes bigger. And because this volume becomes bigger, you are automatically getting air in. And that's how an inhalation works. So this is called belly breathing or diaphragmatic breathing. Then the second way of breathing, and Francis, you're following, we didn't cover that yesterday in the call because this is already more an advanced way of breathing, but nothing stops you from trying it out, of course. So before going to the chest, which would be the third part, we're going to pay attention to the second part now, intercostal breathing. And I also added the word diaphragmatic breathing here because some people might call this also diaphragmatic breathing. It's a bit confusing because belly breathing might be called diaphragmatic breathing and intercostal breathing might be called diaphragmatic breathing. In fact, on both ways of breathing, you are using the diaphragm. It's not that important how it is called, and I would certainly not engage into conversations that are about the use of vocabulary, because some people use some words for this and other people might use another word for exactly the same thing. So this is how we use words. Sometimes that might create a bit confusion. What is important here is that you know how it works and that you can execute it. So what is intercostal breathing? Here we have the flying ribs. These ribs, we can move them. They can go open and close. So the muscles in between are called the intercostal muscles. When we know how to open this part, this is called intercostal breathing. So this time we're not going to use the belly anymore. We're also not going to use the chest. We're only going to use this second part here, and I'm going to put my fingers like in an L shape, like this, the thumb on the sides and the fingers here. And when I inhale, you will see that my fingers are coming apart. It's because air is getting into this part, intercostal breathing. The flying ribs are coming open. Inhale and exhale. And inhale and exhale. So only this part is moving now. When you inhale, this part goes wider. Air comes in here. And when you exhale, they come back to neutral position. This is intercostal breathing. And then the third part, which would be chest breathing. This might also be called clavicular breathing. So once again, it's all about how you want to call it, but I like the word chest breathing because all people all around the world with zero experience in breathing will know what you talk about, what you're talking about when you say chest breathing. Even if you don't know how to do chest breathing, when you hear the word chest, it's pretty obvious it's about here. But when I'm talking about clavicular breathing, if you don't have experience in breathing, you probably don't have a clue what I'm talking about. So that's why I prefer chest breathing, the word chest breathing. But it's good to know that some people might argue that this doesn't actually exist because it's called clavicular breathing, because you are filling the lungs until the top, and the top of the lungs just stops until your clavicular bone. And that's why some people, or even freediving instructors in courses, prefer to call this clavicular breathing. I call it chest breathing because the majority of the people in the world call it chest breathing. So what are we going to do here? We're going to put air in the chest. So this time, not anymore here in the belly, not anymore in this midsection, but only in the chest. How are we going to do this? We are going to stick the chest forward by bringing the shoulders a little bit backwards and a little bit upwards. So let's say like, a degree of 45 degrees, it doesn't really matter. So a little bit backwards and a little bit upwards, so you can open the chest. We're not going to do this, okay? So lifting the shoulders like this is stress. We're not going to do this. We're merely going to move the shoulders a little bit backwards and upwards, so we can make space available for air to come in here. And by doing this kind of chest breathing, you are filling the upper part of your chest. So I'm going to demonstrate this first, facing you. And exhale. And inhale. And exhale. So you see, as I am inhaling, my chest goes forwards, and this part goes a little bit backwards and a little bit upwards. Another angle. And inhale. And exhale. And in. And out. Chest breathing. I think you understand the picture, right? So this is 3-part breath. So when we do this whole breath with the 3 parts at once, we're going to start with the belly, then go towards section 2, and then go towards section 3, which is the chest. But before I show you this, and before we go to the final breath, I want to add a little something, which is number 4, an extra sip of air. So you don't have to do this. This is like an extra. This is like the cherry on the cake. But if you're a beginner, you may totally forget about this. But it's good to know that on top of these 3 sections, you can take in even more air by tilting your head a little bit backwards and getting air into the throat. Or there are even other ways, like opening your vocal cords completely and like gasping for the last sip of air, something like that. So I'm going to demonstrate now the 3-part breath plus an extra sip of air on top of it. So it will be 1, 2, 3, and then a little bit more, and then I'm really full, 100% full of air. All right, so inhalation. And then you hold your breath. So the final breath is going to be like this. We're going to take 5 seconds to fill our lungs using either the 3-part breath or the 4-part breath. I'm going to do it in another angle as well. One more like this. So in. And hold your breath. In fact, I did it through the nose, but your final breath, obviously, you're going to do through the mouth. So let's do that again. My apologies for this. Let's take the final breath through the mouth and in. And hold your breath. If you take final breath through the mouth, and you have to, of course, because if you're wearing a mask, the mask will cover your nose, so you only have your mouth free. Even if you're wearing a nose clip for advanced freedivers, well, you can't breathe through your nose, of course, because there's a nose clip on it. So final breath always through the mouth. Stick out your lips a little bit, like if you're kissing someone, or if you want to impersonate a fish, like this. And then you can control the flux of air better, and it's easier to make the final breath last for 5 seconds. If you do this shorter, like 1 second, then you don't have time enough to take all the air in. So make sure your final breath is around 5 seconds, 4, 5, 6 seconds. I will demonstrate again. First belly, then midsection, then chest. and then extra sip of air. And hold your breath. Other angle. I hope you can't see my belly. I will stand up and in. And hold your breath. That is it for the final breath. As a beginner, I would suggest you to start experimenting with this only using the first and the third section, which is belly and chest. So for beginners, do not do the 4 or the 3-part breath. It's too complicated. It's too much information at once. And you need to learn how to control the respiratory muscles. So start with belly breathing and then chest, and then take a final breath only using belly and chest. So 1, 2. That's all you're going to do. After a couple of weeks or months, when this feels comfortable, when you know how to do this, you can start doing 3-part breath. So 1, 2, 3. And if that feels comfortable, you can add this little sip of air. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, guys, I see the comments are coming in. Very nice. So this was the final breath. Once again, you can join my channel as a member. We have 3 tiers: the freediver, the advanced freediver, and the master freediver. And as a master freediver and advanced freediver, you can get invited into the stream and